Oh my god. It's him.
You son of a bitch!
Toxic?
Toxic.
This is disgusting.
Toxic.
Toxic.
Toxic. Toxic!
Hey, he's a sadistic bastard.
Oh yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode, let me see, I'm going to count here. We are at episode 6, actually, of Camping Them Softly, an extremely unofficial Dead by Daylight podcast, and I am your host, the Toxic Teacher. You can find me on most socials at Toxic Teacher TTV. You can also find me on YouTube at TheToxicTeacher. And then if you want to email me anything, you could just email me at my Gmail, TheToxicTeacher@gmail.com. Now, enough of that. There are a couple of things I want to talk about. It looks like the PTB has now, according to behavior, come and gone, and they've made a couple of changes with that. I've also got some, at least one viewer or listener email to talk about, and then we will talk about those changes toward the end. And then we'll also go on about what we talked about last time, destroying the Survivor Main forum post. So let's go into, we're going to go kind of out of order. I got an email from a listener who is on Twitch, talks about how they are very excited that I am a Death Slinger main, or Death Slinger is one of my favorite killers. They say that they are about 50-50 killer survivor with about 2,000 hours in the game. I'm not going to release their name yet because I haven't spoken with them, but they do make a really good point. They say they play 50-50 killer and survivor, and that allows them knowledge of the other side. Now, we've got a lot of survivor mains that never take the chance to play killer or don't play killer very often, and that probably hampers them, but they're not smart enough to know that, so they just play on in mid to low MMR, and then the winners actually try both sides, like our listener here. So that is that. We're looking for maybe a co-host or a guest. I think we may have one next time, and I think it might be this person that emailed in. Now, let's shift to a different topic. One that I'm extremely excited about. We are actually, Camping Them Softly is actually an international podcast, which is really, really cool. That's exciting to me, that and totally unbelievable that people literally all over the world are listening to me say stupid shit for fun. They for some reason are entertained by me, and I don't know that I'll ever understand that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you a breakdown of these listeners, because the more I look at it, the weirder it is as far as to where people come from. So get this, of my listeners, only 60% are from the United States, which is wild, but 40% are not, are from overseas or maybe even overland. So we've got, for some reason, 11% of the listeners are in Ireland. I have no idea why Irish people love me so much. I don't know what I've done to you guys. You Irish people, if you can send something in, send me an email, send me a message, find me on Twitch, do whatever you need to do. Send me donations in whatever currency. I don't know what currency you guys use over there. I can probably say something very offensive about it, but I'm going to hold off. Now, 7% of the listeners are actually from the Netherlands. And then I'm going to go down our Europeans here. We've got next 6% Austria, 3% Germany, and 3% United Kingdom. I think I know who a couple of those UK people are because they are regulars on the stream. And then rounding out Europe, we've got Denmark at 2%, Canada our friends to the north at 2%, and then Italy, and for some reason, Indonesia, which if you're a Tom Waits listener, you'll recognize that pronunciation of Indonesia from, what was the name of that song? I can't remember. What's He Building in There? Look that up. If you want a really weird ass song, What's He Building in There by Tom Waits. Also, a couple of the cities, as I was looking up, because it actually drills down to the city, a couple of cities in areas I have never heard of. And I was a geography teacher, so this is kind of wild to me. We've got one that's called West Nusa Tenggara. I have no clue what that is, and I haven't taken the chance to look. So if somebody knows, please send a message and educate me on that. Or I could probably just educate myself on it. The other one I like is actually here in the United States, and it's just a fun one to say. Rancho Cucamonga is the other one I really like. That's just a fun word. Cucamonga. Yeah, Cucamonga. So that's pretty cool. I like it. We've got people all over the world. I mean, that's exciting. I never thought in my wildest dreams that after 5 episodes of a podcast, we would be where we are. And that's thanks to you guys. It's no thanks to me. I'm probably the least important piece of this puzzle. I'm the idiot here. And frankly, you guys are probably the idiots for listening to me. But I do appreciate it. So let's move on here. I got to open up my tab because I've got like 20 tabs open. I wanted to talk about the PTB and the developers' views on what happened in the PTB. I'm going to put my glasses on for this, actually, so I can see what's going on here on the screen. So here's what they say. I'm not going to read everything word for word because I hate when people do that, and I will not do that to you. As the least listened to Dead by Daylight podcast still in active production, I would never waste your time with that. I'm going to waste your time with a lot of other things, but not with that. Now, here's what they say. Our team has discussed the feedback you've shared with us on all the new and changed content, and we prepared a series of adjustments that will be made before the update goes live, which I believe is here in like less than 2 weeks. It's going to go live. So here is some of the changes. Here are some of the changes. Let me use grammatically correct English. I've noticed I also say the word a lot. So if you are drinking at home while you listen to this, take a drink every time I say So for the unknown, here are the changes. Number 1, the weakness duration whenever a survivor gets injured by the grenade, it's the UVX. I'm just going to call it the grenade. The weakness duration is increased to 6 seconds when a survivor gets injured. Another change, if an airborne hit hits them, they're going to be hindered 6% instead of 3%. And then one of the durations had a blindness duration of 45 seconds. They upped that to 60. So here is the developer justification for this. They said the weakness effect was a little too easy to remove during the PTB, which meant the killer would have to hit a healthy survivor 4 times to down them. Whenever you increase the weakness duration, whenever they're hit with a blast, accurate killers need 1 less shot to down a survivor. Now, how a survivor main could argue against this change is beyond me. I know every time a new killer comes out, people freak out and say, oh, the killer's overpowered. There's just no way. They have to nerf every single thing about this killer. Just basically take him out of the game, right? We can't. We will rise up. We will rise up against behavior and take our hard-earned money to another asymmetrical horror game that will shut down within 1 year to 1.5 years, which is silly. Because this killer could definitely use this buff, right? I don't even know if I would call it a buff. I would call it a balance change. I would call it an improvement. It's not a buff because that implies, I don't know, people might take that in a negative connotation. Oh, there was one of the us, so you got to take a drink there. The next update, moving on to a couple of other killers, and we're gonna go into why this might be a good or bad change. So for the pig who gets all of these wild changes back and forth, and do we buff him? Do we buff her? Do we nerf her? Here's what it is. So they have reverted one of the changes they made. They decreased the base time of the reverse bear trap. So the time whenever you put the bear trap on, rather, easy for me to say. They decreased the time whenever you put it on to whenever it kills the survivor. They decreased it back to 150 seconds. Now, they had increased it to 180 seconds, 3 minutes during the PTB. So they've reverted it back to the original. It says right here, they wanted to shift the original intent of the developer. They wanted to shift some of the power away from the bear traps and into her stealth and ambush abilities to make her more fun and interactive to play. Many felt that this change was too significant, so we have reverted it for the update's release. We'll be keeping a close eye on performance and reevaluate. Now, this to me, also a very good change. I think the bear traps are an essential part of the pig's kit. I think they need to apply a decent amount of pressure on the survivors in addition to the stealth and ambush. Now, at 150 seconds, is it the be-all, end-all? Not really. You'll have to put a lot of pressure on a survivor. You'll have to put a lot of pressure on a team for the bear traps to go off. They don't just, it's not to the point where it's going to be an extremely common occurrence. I don't know if there are any stats on this, like average number of survivors per match that died to the bear trap, but to me, not a bad change. Next couple, I don't really have a big opinion on because I don't play these killers very much. The first one would be the Huntress. They reverted a change they had made. They decreased the Huntress's movement speed while holding a hatchet to 3.08 meters a second. It was 3.54 during PTB, so she was walking faster while she was aiming. They decreased that. Now, what they say is she was moving too fast when she was aiming, right? So it was too forgiving. So the survivors whined and whined and whined until they got what they wanted. And so it worked out for them. Now, they can't then turn around and say, we never get what we want. They always buff killers. They always nerf survivors because, and a perfect example here, they listen to you whining and complaining, and like crying little babies, you received your bottle. Next one, the clown. Here's a change. The pinky finger add-on now limits the clown's bottle carrying capacity to 1. It previously reduced it by 3. So it actually changes it. It doesn't reduce it by 3. Takes it back down to 1. Now, the reason is the clown can down healthy survivors with this. So it's always been really good. Now, here's what they say. Since we've increased his base carrying capacity, this would have made this add-on stronger. So they changed the hard limit to 1. So it's just like the Huntress's iridescent head. So he only gets 1 bottle, but he can down survivors. Now, this is another example. Survivors complain, survivors moan, bitch, whatever you want to call it, and they get their way. So 2 things there, okay? Killers get a couple of little gimmies. Survivors get, again, exactly what they want. Now, the other parts are on the survivor side. It's some changes to Sable, the new survivor. It's changes to the perks for her. And what we've got basically is the invocation, in my opinion, has been buffed. So whenever she goes into the basement, they start this evil chant that's going to add progress to all of the gens. Now it actually reduces the required charges on the generators. So the generators actually take less to finish. So this is a buff. I mean, come on now. This is ridiculous. Now, we'll see how it actually works. But if you're actually decreasing the amount that gens have to be repaired, all of the gens from this invocation, that's a huge buff, huge buff. Survivors getting exactly what they want. Now, they're going to say, well, that's not enough. We need to just, if you finish the invocation, it should take 3 seconds for every gen to go off. That's how ridiculous they are, and that's probably not very far off from what they're actually asking for. It's goddamn ridiculous, if you ask me. There's another so you take a drink. Notice what I'm doing. I'm really trying to cut back on those. That's my crutch word, as they would say in Toastmasters. The next perk that got a little bit of a change is Strength in Shadows. Now, the old, during the PTB, the healing increase was 60%. Now it's 70%. Now, this is one of those basement things. Whenever you're in the basement, healing. Now they're making it faster to make it more interesting compared to other self-healing perks. This allows you to heal in 23 seconds by default. So again, Survivor's Wine, it's not good enough. It's 60% is not enough. We demand 80%. We demand 90%. We demand double healing speed. Now, Behavior, in their infinite wisdom, just upped it 10% to give the whining survivors their second bottle or third bottle, depending on, whatever you think about those nerfs to the killer changes. Now, the last perk for Sable that they have actually reworked is Wicked. Now, here is the new Wicked. It says your self-unhook attempts in the basement always succeed. When you are unhooked or unhook yourself, you see the killer's aura for 16, 18, or even 20 seconds. This is ridiculous. Now, here's their note, and then we'll react to this. It says, we didn't feel the original perk was very effective, so we have given it an overhaul. The ability to unhook yourself from a basement hook may come in handy if you're caught during an invocation, but be warned, killers may catch on and carry to a hook above ground. The aura reading effect will allow you to gain some value from this perk, even if you are never hooked in the basement. So think about that. It says, the second part of this perk, when you are unhooked or hook yourself, you see the killer's aura for 16, 18, 20 seconds. Now, this is ridiculous, to say the least. I am not very happy about this one at all. I think this is a terrible, terrible idea. And my crowd also thinks so. My legions of adoring, now international fans, the Irish, are going to rise up in revolt with their fellow Hollanders. Is that what they're called? Hollanders? Netherlanders? Dutchers? The Dutch. The Dutch are going to go to war with Behavior over this change. Because think about this. A survivor gets unhooked, they can see the killer for 20 seconds. Now in solo queue, that's one thing. In a survivor with friends, that's going to be an absolute nightmare. If you can see the killer for that long, that's fucking crazy. Crazy. And there's no excuse. No excuse. Behavior, I demand, and the Irish demand, and the Dutch demand, and the other person that's from West Noosa, what was it called? West Noosa Tingara, they demand it. The one listener from Rancho Cucamonga demands it as well. That you change that you take that away, because it is, I don't know, it makes absolutely no sense. I am not happy with that. And that is on my list of demands, along with a few other things that we're not going to get into. I have a lot of demands of a lot of places, but that's it for right now for Behavior. Now, the last, I don't see a whole lot else. They say they're going to watch to see if the unknown's too strong, too weak, or if there are any points of frustration in the coming weeks and months. Also, the invocation, they're kind of watching that as well. Now, the comments, you can go into the comments if you want. I started to go into it. Whenever you go into comments in a Facebook, Reddit, X, I guess it's X now that the Maniac had changed its name. I start to get exhausted. I don't know what to say. You got what do I even say? I don't even know what to say. It's just, I think overall the changes for the unknown were good, but I think all of the other changes here from the PTB, the changes they're making benefit survivors in almost every single way. I don't know how they would argue that this is bad. I don't even know what they're arguing. I see survivors happy in the comments, which says that they gave a lot. I mean, they gave a lot to the survivors. It just, oh my God, they're going to find a new way to complain. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And then they'll ask for more and more and more and more. And it's just a long, exhausting battle that's been going on for years and years and years. It says right here, somebody did some math, and this is interesting. It says, if my math is right, strength and shadows combined with botany knowledge will let you heal yourself faster than if somebody else was healing you, because botany gives you a 50% boost, which is added multiplicatively to the 70%, causing a final speed of 105. Now, I don't know. I know the basement is going to have a lot to do with this new update, because the invocation, because of these perks. I think territorial imperative might be a little bit more interesting for killers to run, so they can see when survivors are going down there. That might be a good counter to all of this new stuff. I also think that the basement Bubba is going to be interesting, again, just flying down there with your chainsaw as they're doing these invocations. It'll be interesting. Also, Nurse's Calling might be good to run, especially with that new self-heal in the basement. I feel like you could, as a killer, get a lot of value out of a couple of these perks that involve that. Trapper is also going to be pretty fun if they start doing more of this invocation stuff. They may abandon it pretty quick if the killers figure out a good way to counter it. They'll either demand buffs, demand killers be nerfed, take out territorial imperative, take out Nurse's Calling, eliminate Trapper, strike him from all memory forever, or just take Trapper and take away all of his traps. They could do that. It remains to be seen. I'm not going to jump too much, but you've heard kind of my general idea here. So let's end with a couple of things. I've just been going through the tomes, on my streams. Nothing huge, nothing big. Practicing some of my stealth builds. I'm always kind of tweaking those. So if you have any good stealth options, especially for Deathslinger, especially for Oni, especially now, I'm actually beginning to like Xenomorph. I don't know if that's going to change once my MMR jumps, because I haven't played Xeno a whole lot, but from what I have played, I'm enjoying it. Maybe because I haven't played a whole lot, so the MMR maybe is not there. But if you have any good stealth builds, I'm mostly running Trail of Torment, along with what's the other one? Hysteria, Hex, oh God, what is it? Hex Plaything. There it is, Hex Plaything. And I found those to be pretty good. Nurse's Calling actually helps a lot whenever you are undetectable, because they'll heal straight in front of you. You get a lot of value out of it that way. So that's what's going on in my world. Remember, you can find me on Twitch at TheToxicTeacher, TTV, along with Instagram, TikTok, and all of that good stuff. YouTube, you can find a lot of my videos on there. TheToxicTeacher. And again, if you want to send me an email, if you have something to say, if you agree, disagree, whatever, on this daylight saving. Are we in standard time? Daylight savings? I can't remember. It's one or the other. Either way, I lost an hour of sleep, which is not good. I'm kind of grumpy today. So if you can tell, I don't know if you could tell because I always sound a little bit like this, but maybe a little bit more now. But anyway, if you have anything, let me know. You know where to find me at this point. In all of the socials, my shit is all over the place. And you can talk to me. I love to talk. I love to discuss. I love to argue. I love to camp. I love to tunnel. Whenever I am playing Survivor, I love to sandbag. And I don't know if that's a bannable offense to sandbag somebody, because I was actually wanting to have a stream that's like Saturday night sandbagging or Sunday morning sandbagging, or are those the only two that start with an S? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, it would have to be on the weekend, I guess, that I would sandbag the shit out of people. I just posted a TikTok where I sandbagged somebody, and it was hilarious. I had a great time. That was one of the funniest moments I've had. And I got some hate comments on that. You can check that out on the TikTok. So I feel like that's it for me. Again, guys, thank you all over the world. My Irish, Dutch, West Nusa Tengarans, whatever you're called. I don't know what you're called. I don't even know where that is. Hopefully someday I'll get one listener from the Isle of Man or Madagascar. That's what I'm aiming for. An Isle of Manor. Is it? I don't know. I don't know demonyms very well, but I do know it's a demonym. That's what you call somebody who's from a certain country. I may actually have to look that up. If I can find an Isle of Manor or a Madagascarite, Guam? If somebody's from Guam, are they a Guami bear? I don't know. But I'm a Guamite, Guamanian. It could be Guamanian, actually. I think that might be Guamanian. So West Nusa Tenggarian. I'm just going off at this point. I have absolutely nothing else to talk about rather than just like saying random words. And you probably tuned out by now, but if you haven't, I appreciate it. Come back next time, next week. I'm going to try to get a regular cadence maybe on Tuesday mornings, and we'll see where to go from there. It all depends on listenership and likes and all of that on all of the podcasting places. Drop me a rating, drop me a like, drop me a comment. Tell your friends, family, friends. If you hate this podcast, tell your enemies about it so they'll listen to me and they'll hate me just as much as you do. Until next time, guys, I appreciate it. And actually, I don't appreciate it if you're a Survivor main. Please stop listening. Bye.
That's toxic. You son of a bitch!
Toxic?
Toxic.
This is disgusting.
Toxic.
Toxic. Toxic!
Hey, he's a sadistic bastard.
Oh yeah.